Senator Chuck Grassley just came out on the floor on Congress warning of Social Security insolvency coming up in just a few years. So if Congress does not act, there's going to be automatic benefit cuts taking place across the board for everyone receiving Social Security, whether you receive Social Security retirement, survivors, SSI, or SSDI. You're going to be receiving a benefit cut of 22% without congressional action. However, we have a new bipartisan push in Congress where they're going to try to get something done by the end of this year. So in today's video, we are going to be covering everything that you need to know. But before we go ahead and dive into it for today, if you would like to receive $300 in pretty much completely passive income, in a pinned comment below, I will be leaving a link where you can sign up for Capital One 360 checking. You see right now, Capital One is running a promotion where if you sign up for one of their 360 checking accounts and you make two separate deposits of at least $500 within the first 75 days from your account opening. In return, Capital One will be giving you a bonus of $300 just for doing so. Now, as far as those two $500 deposits go, that can either be like your Social Security benefit check, it can be a pension, it can be a paycheck from your job. Anything like that counts. And again, in return, Capital One will be giving you a bonus of $300 for doing so. And in return, I may also be eligible for a commission as well, which of course I would greatly appreciate you supporting my channel. But as always, terms and conditions do apply. Okay, so Senator Chuck Grassley just came out on the floor of Congress pushing out a new warning for everyone receiving Social Security benefits. Let's go ahead and watch.
I come to the floor today as a member of the Senate Finance Committee, which has jurisdiction over Social Security, and to remind everybody, because everybody knows, or better know, the Social Security Primary Trust Fund will be depleted in just 6 years. As a result, come late 2032, the program will only have enough income from the payroll taxes to pay 78% of benefits dues. That surplus that has built up since a Republican President Trump and a Democrat then Speaker Tip O'Neill sat down and said, we can't let anything bad happen to Social Security. So they put a plan together that passed almost unanimously in this United States Senate. I presume those two gentlemen, bipartisan they were, that they thought it may only extend the program for 20 years or something, but as we see now, they had a plan that built up a surplus for the next 50 years, and that runs out 2032. In other words, to emphasize, unless Congress acts quickly, retirees will see a 22% cut in their benefits, about the same as what Reagan and O'Neill saw happening in 1983. So this statistic alone should motivate the Congress to act expeditiously to ensure no disruption of benefits occur. Unfortunately, Congress has a tendency to put off action until too late and at the last moment. This is never the best approach, but with respect to addressing Social Security funding shortfall, it poses serious risks not only to the tens of millions of retirees, but also a risk to the national economy. At a recent Mercatus Center, that paper and the documents with it waiting until the last minute to act on Social Security puts this vital program on a collision course with the nation's growing fiscal crisis. The longer Congress waits to act, the more likely it is that any solution to Social Security will lean heavily on debt financing to bridge the funding gap, and that's how it's tied to the entire national economy. So come 2032, the nation will already have outstanding debt larger than any time in the nation's history relative to the size of our economy, flooding the bond market with trillions of dollars in new debt in short order, then risks setting off a chain of events leading to a fiscal crisis. Bond markets are likely to demand higher interest rates to absorb all the national debt. In other words, Congress needs to act in the same way that Reagan and Tip O'Neill acted in a bipartisan fashion in 1983 to preserve Social Security. A bigger problem faces us today, and we should have a bipartisan agreement in this town, including a president who wants to get us on a Social Security on a financially sound basis. I yield the floor, suggest the absence of a quorum.
Okay, so once again, that was Chuck Grassley issuing a dire warning about Social Security. And once again, in just a few years, there's going to be benefit cut taking place automatically across the board for everyone by 22%. This would be absolutely devastating for everyone receiving Social Security benefits. However, the good news, of course, is that there is a bipartisan plan right now being pushed in Congress that they're trying to get done by the end of this year. It's called the Promise Act. And basically what they'd be doing is they'd be having 13 members in a committee designed to come up with a plan to save Social Security. 6 would be Republicans, 6 would be Democrats, and 1 would be selected by President Donald Trump. Now, for any plan to pass this committee, they would need at least 9 out of the 13 members to vote in approval of it. So it couldn't just be something where they only had the Republican selections, approve of the bill, or it couldn't be a deal where just only the Democrat selections approve of the bill. This would have to be a bipartisan thing actually taking place in this committee. Then on top of that, after they approved whatever plan with at least 9 votes, at that point it would go to the House. It would have to be passed to the House. Then it would go to the Senate. It would have to have at least 60 votes in the Senate. And then Trump would have to sign it into law. So once again, the Promise Act, which is short for Protecting Retirement Opportunities and Maintaining Income Security for Everyone, is a bipartisan proposal introduced in the U.S. Senate in 2026. It is not itself a Social Security benefit increase or cut. Instead, it creates a process intended to force Congress to address Social Security's long-term financing before automatic benefit reduction occur. Here's what it would do. So first off, it would establish an independent bipartisan advisory committee to develop recommendations for keeping Social Security financially solvent for at least 50 years. The committee would have a deadline to produce a plan, and Congress would then be required to hold votes on the committee's recommendations rather than simply ignoring them. So whatever recommendations they came up with, they would be required to vote. They could just not, allow those ideas to sit by the side and allow to pass by. They would absolutely have to vote on whether or not this actually gets approved in both the House as well as the Senate. Now, does it change Social Security benefits? They say not directly. So it does not specify either increasing benefits, reducing benefits, raising the retirement age, increasing payroll taxes, or eliminating the payroll tax cap. Instead, it creates a framework for producing recommendations. Those recommendations could eventually include some combination of either higher payroll taxes, benefit changes, retirement age adjustments, new source of revenue, or other reforms. Those decisions would still require congressional approval. So right now, why is it controversial? So the ones who argue for the bill, it says that it forces Congress to confront a problem that has delayed for years. It also encourages bipartisan negotiations, and it also provides a structured process for long-term reform. Now, as far as those against it, critics of it say the process could move too quickly. It may also produce public scrutiny of major Social Security changes, and it could make it easier to pass benefit reductions or other controversial reforms without the usual legislative process. Now you can see up on the screen here so far the ones who are in support of this bill. We have 4 Republicans in support of it, 2 Democrats in support of it, and 1 independent who usually sides with the Democrats, and Angus King. So far the Republican ones who support it are Bill Cassidy. We also have Senator Tom Tillis. We also have John Cornyn, and we also have Alan Armstrong. Now, interestingly enough, Bill Cassidy and John Cornyn are not going to be around in 2027. So those 2 Republicans actually got primaried in their elections. So, if they can get this passed by the end of this year, it's going to make it a lot easier for this bill to pass, and of course for them to come up with a solution to solve Social Security and its insolvency issue and make it so we don't have those drastic 22% benefit cuts from taking place. But with that said, leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about the Promise Act? Are you for it? Are you against it? Drop your comments below. But that's all we have for today's video. And as always, I will see you in the next one.